Welcome to the Neophyte in the Woods podcast with Andrew McDowell.
Welcome to another episode of Neophyte in the Woods podcast, a podcast of the Change Your POV podcast network. It's just me this week. I'm doing an episode that I'm going to call My Plans for the Season or Getting the Monkey Off My Back. So this is my third year, depending on how you look at it, fourth year hunting, specifically hunting whitetails. And until this point, I've helped kill whitetails. I've helped kill deer, but I've never actually successfully pulled the trigger on one. In a week or two, you'll hear an episode from my buddy Trey talking about a deer that could have been mine if I had a slightly later flight. And with my buddy Mike Penny, who I need to get on the show. We both had geometries of fire on the same deer, but things just kind of shook out. That he had a slightly better angle on it, so he ended up taking the shot. And then last year I had the opportunity to bag a doe, but didn't. I had my version of buck fever. I called it doe fever last year, and just dropped a shot low right under it, and it just didn't happen. Grateful that I missed her clean, but disappointed that I didn't come up back with a deer. So this year, I'm thinking that I'm not going to be as selective as maybe many of the hunters out there who've been doing this longer or who have had more success. My plan is to, and I hate this expression, but my plan is basically to embrace, if it's brown, it's down. I'll be hunting out of a tree stand for the first time with a muzzle loader, so I want to focus on fundamentals more than looking for the biggest, greatest, best deer that I can possibly find. That also takes into account that my time is limited a little bit. I'm taking a solid week to hunt, which is great, but that's about 4 days less than I had last year. And then the time that I'm not in the woods, I'm not going to be prepping or looking at weather or anything like that. I obviously have a young family that takes up a lot of attention, and that's a good thing. But you might actually be able to hear the baby in the background there. But it's a good drain on resources, so that'll definitely weigh a little bit on me and probably have me taking a few less risks than I would if it was just me. Or just me and my wife. So my plan for this season, I guess I really need to go back to the beginning. So my season up here opened in the middle of September. Hunting wise, I've been chasing upland birds, woodcock, and squirrels. Mostly unsuccessfully to date. You hear a couple of weeks ago our podcast about squirrel hunting, and we hunted for 4 or 5 hours and heard them but didn't see them. Um, so that was fun, but a little bit of a disappointment. I've gone out upland game hunting a couple of times, and have brought home a woodcock, which is a tasty little bird, but not um, necessarily a huge filling meal. So it's been a little bit disappointing there, that I haven't had more time field. But again, there's other demands on my time that make it less of a possibility to go out. So that kind of takes me up to today and looking ahead to my first hunt on the 27th. I've been running two trail cameras in the woods, year round, since last July, um, and have had pretty consistent performance on the cameras. There's a couple of deer that are real corkers, that coming through. One that I saw last year that I called Percy, who was just a little fork point, with kind of a weird long face last year, and a discolored brow. He had little forks and then brow tines, which was kind of a cool looking deer, and I obviously made it through the season. I know folks who were seeing him all through deer season in the neck of the woods where I'm going to be hunting. Um, so assuming that he hasn't been killed by an archer, he's definitely a deer that I'd like to see. He's matured into an 8, that's pretty wide, for New England. So that's pretty cool. And there's actually a couple more bucks that are either new to the property or that I haven't seen before. There's I think he's like a 5 point. He's got a regular kind of 4 point on one side and a pure spike on the other, and just kind of has a weird rack and a kind of a oop, that was definitely a baby. Uh, Definitely a kind of a janked up coat. So he's probably going to be the closest thing to a cull buck, as we have on the property right now. But I'm not going out specifically looking for these guys. I'm going out looking for a deer. We definitely have more does than bucks, which is suboptimal, from a herd quality standpoint. But and I definitely will have doe tags in my pocket. But my real goal here at the end of the day is not to come home with tag soup for the fourth year in a row, depending on how you slice my seasons. Um, I think that for better or for worse, I feel sometimes like an imposter, like I lack a little bit of credibility, having never successfully pulled the trigger on a deer. And that, I'm not going to say it weighs on me, because it doesn't. They call it hunting, not killing, for a reason. But I think I've spent a lot of time and energy and money, and time, out in the woods and preparing for the season. So I'd really like to have something to show for it other than some great stories. I think one of the things that this is really trite, and my boss says it all the time, and it pisses me off. Um, but you can always make more money. You can't always make more time. And the time spent in the woods is not lost time by any stretch of the imagination. But it is time, that I'm not spending with my daughter or my wife or my parents or my brothers, and I love it, and I'm passionate about it, and it's not lost time. But this year in particular, with the new baby and everything else going on in the world, I feel like I would like to get it done on day one and then be able to have some real uninterrupted family vacation time. So I'll be hunting, all day, every day, from the 27th of November, uh, that first week of the season. So the 27th through the 2nd. I'll be hunting out of a I'll be hunting out of a Summit Viper climber. This is my first year hunting out of a stand. I've always kind of just hunkered down on the ground and shivered and kind of dealt with everything that comes along with ground hunting. And this is a stand that I borrowed from my buddy Nick, and I'm excited to get out there and use it. Um, I will in Massachusetts, and I know in some other states, you have the option of during the 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 shotgun deer season, um, to hunt with a more primitive, quote unquote, weapon. The shotgun is about as advanced as we get in Massachusetts when it comes to deer hunting. You can't use, bolt action rifles or anything like that, but they will let you use a break action inline muzzle loader, as well as a flintlock or more traditional black powder. So during the shotgun season, which opens again on the 27th, I will be using my Thompson Center Impact muzzle loader in the 50 caliber to look for deer, catching deers, as it were. And I've shot this gun as much, if not more, than any other weapon that I've purchased in the past couple of years that's not a purely self defense weapon. It is infinitely more accurate than I am, and the scope that I have up on it is clear and really, I think, good quality. It's by the brand du jour, of Vortex, and I'm a big fan of their glass. This is actually the first piece of quality glass that I've ever bought, and I'm blown away with the quality and the accuracy and the ease of access, and ease of modification that, or not modification, I guess, the ease of sighting it in. Um, so out of that, I'm you could say I'm cheating when it comes to black powder. I'm using Pirate X pellets, the White Hots, and 50 caliber Shockwave sabos. I think it's a 200 grain, 250 grain bullet. So it's a pretty big slug, going pretty fast. And I've had great success. Actually, this past weekend, my wife and I had a little range date, and we went out, and she'd never shot my black powder before, so I gave her a little crash course on it, and quite impressively, I think she, at 50 yards worth, her first time out on this gun, uh, drilled the target with a double lung on her first shot. So if she ever got really mad at me, I think I'd be in a lot of trouble. Um, I think if we put her out in the woods with a gun, and she decided she wanted to hunt, I think the deer would be in a lot of trouble. So once I get through my late season rutcation, obviously the gun season in Massachusetts comes after kind of the peak of the rut, which is going on right now. Um, there's really not a ton of opportunity for me to get in the woods. I'm hoping, the season continues to be open through the end of the year, through New Year's Eve. I'm hoping to get out, a couple of Saturdays, even if it's just for a morning sit or an evening sit. Um, just kind of keep my hand in. I think in a perfect world, I'll have this done pretty quickly, and we'll be on to the hard work pretty fast. But I think that realistically, the way my luck tends to run when it comes to these things, I'll be still out in the woods looking for something on the 30th of December, until the last light that I can hunt. So that pretty much takes us through the end of the season. I'm walking into this hopeful. Despite some trouble that I've obviously had in the past with closing the deal, and I think that one of the greatest assets that a hunter can have is a short memory when it comes to failure, and the ability to learn from it. I've certainly had more than my fair share, and an opportunity to learn from failure over the last couple of years. So that's, I think I'm really, at the end of the day, hesitant to call it failure, because it really has been a good experience, and has helped me figure out where to be and how to be and when to be, regardless of if I had my own backstrap in the freezer at the end of the day, which is something that I definitely want to do this year. I think that there's some recipes out there that I think I really want to try. I've been watching a ton of Meat Eater, and every time he cooks something, I'm like, ooh, I want to try that. I've probably texted and IM'd my wife more recipe ideas in the past probably 3 weeks that all depend on me uh, putting down a deer than I have in the previous 3 years. So if that level of excitement is anything to do with success, I'm hopefully in pretty good shape. So that's where we're at with this whole thing, and I'm hopeful that next time I have one of these solo episodes, it's a retrospective and I get to break down and discuss my first harvest in detail. Thanks a lot for tuning in. Sorry that this episode is so short, but there's not a lot to talk to. Next week we're back to our regularly scheduled, and we'll talk to you soon. If you're out in the woods, shoot straight. Good luck. If you're not out there, hope you get out there soon. Thanks a lot, guys. You guys have a good one. Hey everyone, it's Andrew from Neophyte in the Woods. Just popping in real quick, wanting to do a quick kind of bumper out here. We here at Neophyte in the Woods and the Change Your POV Network do this all out of the goodness of our hearts. We legitimately love and are passionate about the subjects about which we speak. However, that doesn't mean that we're not absorbing some costs. And one of the ways we're trying to address the overhead costs associated with putting out these podcasts is to do Patreon. And you can find a link to it right down at the bottom in the kind of the episode show notes on our website. If you could donate anything that you're able to support us and help us get this content coming out to you, it would be very much appreciated. There are tiers of membership from $1 all the way up to 10, and you can donate more than that. For our backers, our Patreon patrons, we do offer some unique content. We've been doing weekly shows where we do a live stream and we talk about a quote on Mondays. It's normally right around 8 p.m. Eastern. There's also some other cool rewards, including the level at which I back at $10 a month. You can actually get, believe it or not, a signed autographed picture of our fearless leaders, Bennett and Eddie. It really changed my life. It sits actually right up above the computer where I record all this stuff. I take it with me when I go hunting. I take it with me when I go fishing. I take it with me when I go to work. It goes everywhere with me. Some people have an EDC pocket knife. I have an EDC picture of Bennett and Eddie. I would really strongly suggest you back us and keep the good work that we're doing coming. Thanks for listening. Thanks for supporting us on Patreon. Thanks for leaving us reviews on iTunes, and we'll talk to you next week.